Fruit thinning seems pretty counterintuitive to me. We all want a lot of fruits on a tree. Why would we want to thin them down? Hi, this is Ruchi, and let's talk about fruit thinning, or specifically apple thinning, in this video today. There are many reasons you want to do fruit thinning. Number one, if you have a young plant and it has too many fruits, it is possible that the young branches may break because of the weight of the fruit. So early on, as the fruits are growing, you want to thin them down and have less number of fruits so that the branches don't break. Number two, if you have too many fruits growing from one place, like in apple, they grow in clusters. If there are too many fruits in one cluster, they will all grow up to become smaller apples. But if you remove a few of those, then you will get one or two bigger apples. Number three, when the fruits in a cluster start to grow, and if they are touching each other, they are more prone to diseases. If one fruit gets a pest, very quickly it will propagate to other touching fruits, and very quickly all your fruits will be diseased. So you don't want the fruits to be touching each other. And also when they are touching each other, they are rubbing against each other and they may damage the other fruits. So you definitely don't want fruits to be touching each other while they are growing on the tree. So the fourth reason is alternate bearing or biennial bearing. So one year you will have a bumper crop and the next year you will have no crop or very small crop. That's because when the fruits are developing on the apple tree, the tree is also developing the flower buds for the next season. You can't see these flower buds, they are in the branches. So if there are too many fruits on the tree, most of trees' energy will go in developing these fruits and less energy will go in developing the flower buds for the next season. So in the next season, there will be less flower buds, less flowers, and less fruits. So if you thin down your fruits in this season, then more energy will go towards developing the flower buds for the next season, and next year also you will have a reasonable crop. So these are the reasons you must thin your fruit trees. So nature is quite smart, so it does fruit thinning by itself. So for example, the apple tree, it does first fruit thinning right after the blossoms fall. The blossoms of this season, they fall. At that time, some of the fruits will drop. So that is first thinning. And the second thinning happen, maybe a couple of months later, when fruits start to grow and they become about 1 inch in size. But that is not sufficient. So you should go and do some manual thinning yourself. I mean, in professional cases, in farms, they have chemicals and other things to do the thinning. But for a home gardener, you want to do manual thinning, and I'll show you how. But let me just give you some pointers first. Look for diseased or deformed fruit and remove them first. Then in a cluster, if there are some apples which are big and some small, so get rid of the smaller apples. And then just make sure that the fruits are not touching each other. Those are the three basic principles. And there is one fourth one also. Suppose there are apples, some apple, they are on the top and they get a lot of sunlight, and there are some apples at the bottom which don't get the sunlight. You want to get rid of the apples at the bottom. So let me show you how to do it. So if you look at this cluster, there are 4 apples growing from the same place. This one is the biggest and these 3 are small. So first of all, I get rid of the smallest one. Now 3 are left. Now this one is pretty close to this one also and this one. So maybe I want to remove this middle one. Ideally, I would want only 1 apple left here, but since these 2 are a little bit apart, so I can leave it here and wait, and when they grow bigger, if they start to touch each other, then I can get rid of 1 more apple. So if you look at this cluster again, there are 3 apples growing from the same place, and that's not good. So this one looks a little deformed to me, so I'll remove this. And still there are two apples there and they are touching each other. So again, I'll just find the best looking apple and remove the other one. So now there's only one left, which is good. So let's look at this cluster. So it has so many apples growing. Actually, these are two clusters. The first cluster on the top has 4 apples, and this cluster on the bottom has 4 apples. But the apples from the first cluster are touching the second cluster. So there is one very small apple here, so that I will remove. I'll remove this apple which is touching the other apple, and again just leave one apple in the first cluster and do the same thing here. They are all approximately the same size, so I'm going to just remove all the apples and just leave one. So out of these 2 clusters, I have only 2 apples remaining. So here is another cluster. I'll remove the leaves so you can see. So there are 4 apples growing. So they are too many. So you want to remove this one. Now the middle one is the biggest apple, but if I keep middle one, I have to get rid of the other 2 apples because they are almost touching. Instead, if I remove the middle one, then I have 2 apples left here and they're a little bit apart, so it should be okay. So you have to make a judgment call, and sometimes you don't want to remove too many fruits because some thinning happens automatically. Tree drops some of the fruits, so you don't want to reduce too many fruits right in the beginning. And you should be doing this when the fruit is less than 1 inch in diameter. So right now it's the right time. But basically you remove the smallest apples or the apples that are touching, and just make sure that in each cluster you have only 1 or 2 apples left so that they become bigger. So I'm going to just sequentially go through all the clusters and remove extra apples. So I hope this video was useful to you. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll try to answer as soon as possible. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share it with your friends and family. And I'll see you next time. Happy gardening. Bye.